Alright, so year 11, we're going to talk about a new technique used for solving quadratics. So a question, first of all, what does solving mean? What does that mean?
Finding out certain values, so like x or y.
Yeah, so finding out certain values about what? X or y. What do we call x and y? It starts with u.
Unknowns.
Unknowns, very good. We're looking for an unknown value. Now, with quadratics, how many solutions, what's the maximum amount of unknowns we can have?
2.
2. What's the minimum amount?
0.
0, okay? So we've got between 2 and 0. Now, often when we're dealing with quadratics, right, we'll get, and my pen's aren't very good, but we'll get an example of something like x squared plus 4x plus 3 equals 0. And we'll factorise that and find the solutions. How would I factorise that?
X plus 3.
X plus 3, brackets, x plus 1, correct? And the solution to that is x equals negative 3 or x equals negative 1. Okay, we're good with that?
Yeah.
That's all well and good until we get to something like this. Why is that not going to work? What's the difference between this example and this example?
You can't do the plus and the times method.
Very good. What else could we do? Let's say we're sitting in a...
Quadratic formula.
We could use a quadratic formula. What else? No, can't do that yet. Not bad though. If we're in a tech active exam, we could... Because what is this? What is... When I ask you to solve a quadratic, what am I asking you to do?
Find the x.
Yeah, find the x. If I let this equal y, correct? Y equals this, then I'm basically saying find my x-intercept. So I could sketch it and find my x-intercepts. But I'm not in a tech active exam. I'm in a tech 3 exam and I'm asked to solve this equation. So I'm sitting there, can I use the quadratic formula?
No.
Not in my head, it's very challenging. What I can do though is completing the square. So I manipulate this to become this. And I put square brackets around. I thought about writing this in orange, but I didn't. Essentially, I've manipulated this by adding these two terms. So I've added 16 on 2 squared and I've subtracted 16 on 2 squared. Why have I done that?
Because you found the half of the square number of 16x.
So all I've done is I've halved this number and squared it. Now I've left the other stuff over here. So I'll say that again, I've halved that second number, the b value, I've halved that and squared it. So what is half of 16? 8. So I've added, I really should have written 8 squared there. The next line of working I should have added, because I got a bit lazy, is x squared plus 16x plus 64 minus 8 squared plus 9. And that gets me to that. Do we understand that jump? I'll put the square brackets back around so we're not getting confused. Where did the 16x? In this one? If you expand that bracket, you'll get this. If we expand this, we'll get that, correct? This is like, so if I look at this, right, that's exactly the same as the process I'm using here. I need two numbers that multiply to give me 64 and add to give me 16. What are those numbers? Oh no, I shouldn't have dropped that, that's going to be painful. Yep.
Shouldn't you take away 9 from the equation straight away?
I can, yep. I could here
Yeah.
and make that 55, yep.
Yeah.
Why do you think I didn't do that here? What am I trying to show you? I've added this 8 squared,
Yeah.
so to keep equivalence, what have I got to do? To keep equivalence, how do I deal with the fact that I've added this a squared? I've got to take a squared away, correct? So I've added 64 into the square bracket, which means I've got to take 64 outside of it, cool? Now the reason I've done this is because I know I'm going to finish up with this plus some number, or minus some number in this case. I hope it's minus. What have I done from this point on? Rearrange to isolate my unknown, correct? Add 55 square root. I know that square roots have both a positive and a negative solution. Minus 8 from both sides. And that leaves me with x equals negative 8 plus or minus the square root of 55. Now I can do that in the tech-free exam, correct? It is tricky, there's a bit to it. So I'll talk about the steps again just so we're clear. I get to this quadratic, so I'm just restarting the whole problem. I see this quadratic. I'm asked to solve it in a tech-free exam. I can't use my calculator. Because there's no factors, what I do is I make up factors essentially. I look at this number in the middle and I halve it. I then square that number, I add it and I subtract the same number so I'm not destroying my equivalence. Whatever was previously there, I just shove to the end. I've now created a new bracket with whatever that was. This number here happens to be 8, x plus that squared. To deal with that, I add the subtraction. I combine those two numbers, rearrange and solve. Yep.
So you always do half of the middle number?
Yeah, whatever the middle number is. I'll give you a formula for that, but I wanted to give you an example before I gave you a formula so you understood why I was doing it. Does that make sense? The best way to do this, again, I can talk till I'm black and blue, and I know that that's not going to... I'm fully aware that if I was in your shoes, what I just said would make absolutely no sense whatsoever. If you've got that well done to you, the best way to do it is to practice. There is no substitute for actually getting your hands on the problem and doing it. So what I want you to do now, I'm going to give you a set, I don't care where you're up to with your work, I want you to just complete in the square, have a go, and then when you get stuck, you can ask for help. Cool?